2023从都国际论坛的嘉宾阵容可谓十分豪华，来自40多个国家的130多位政界、学界和商界等领域的嘉宾参加论坛，其中包括30多位前国家元首、政府首脑和国际组织负责人。论坛间隙，深圳卫视记者专访了斯洛文尼亚前总统、世界领袖联盟主席达尼洛·图尔克，就多边主义、国际法、地区冲突等话题进行了对话。
当前全球治理面临复杂形势，国际秩序处在关键十字路口。2023从都国际论坛以多边主义、更多交流、更多包容、更多合作为主题，这也是从都国际论坛连续第3届聚焦多边主义。图尔克表示，世界需要找到一个将各方聚集在一起的方式，不应该排除任何人。
Multilateralism is a necessity for the future, but it is not perceived as such by everybody. And this is a problem. This is a problem which we need to address to figure out in which areas, which points require more and better multilateral cooperation.
作为资深政治家、外交家和享有盛誉的国际法专家和国际治理专家，图尔克认为，当前全球面临的诸多共同挑战，比如单边主义、保护主义、恐怖主义、网络安全、能源安全以及战争和制裁等，在某种程度上可以借助发展国际法来改善。
International law is a very broad and area of law with a lot of variety. Now, there are certain fundamental rules which have to be respected much better than is the case today. Respect for territorial integrity, political independence of sovereign states. Then there are many other areas, including those that regulate private foreign investment and protection of investors, as well as protection of host countries of investment. So these are areas where international law will have to be developed further.
I heard your speech this morning that you mentioned the international law, we have bystander. So could you please raise an example?
States tend to interpret international law in accordance with their national interests. Sometimes they choose to ignore international law and pretend that rules do not exist or that they are not sufficiently clear. On other occasions, they insist on international law because that's in their interest. Using law for a strategic purpose is not a new phenomenon. But we live in a time when that use has become really very problematic internationally.
图尔克表示，巴以冲突以及俄乌冲突的发生，就是国际法未得到充分尊重的例证。他指出，相关地区冲突本不应发生，但目前的国际社会缺乏相应的法律框架去解决相关问题。图尔克呼吁尽早完善相关法律，避免国际体系崩解。图尔克曾先后50多次到访中国，见证了过去几十年中国发生的巨大变化。同时，他在全球治理、共建“一带一路”等众多领域一直和中国保持着友好的关系。作为中国和从都国际论坛的老朋友，图尔克认为中国正以自己的力量为动荡不安的世界提供新解方。
There's so many chaos ongoing in the world. So do you think this forum will lead the way to this chaos?
Well, I think that, there are efforts to bring first calm, and then rational discussion about future. I think that the 3 initiatives of President Xi are motivated by that, the Global Development Initiative, Peace Initiative, and Civilization Initiative. I believe that one has to start with a general proposition and then develop specific conclusions on that basis. I mean, it's perfectly good to have a general principle first and then develop it in a more concrete plan of action later. And I think that is something that one has to understand when we talk about President Xi's 3 initiatives.
12月5号，2023从都国际论坛在广州落下帷幕，发表了从都宣言，凝聚了来自40多个国家的130多位政界、学界和商界等领域的嘉宾的广泛共识。宣言从当前世界局势出发，也探讨如何面对和解决全人类所面临的共性问题为线索，提出应对解决的原则与方针。
从都宣言指出，人类社会面临着前所未有的严峻挑战和不确定性。 2023年从都国际论坛明确提出，要以交往超越封闭，以包容化解对立，以合作赢得未来。面对建设一个什么样的世界，如何建设这个世界的时代之问，中国以自身发展维护和促进世界和平提出并推进共建“一带一路”倡议和全球发展倡议、全球安全倡议、全球文明倡议，推动构建人类命运共同体。这对于促进世界发展有积极作用。与会嘉宾欢迎中国结合3大全球倡议，提出关于全球治理变革和建设的中国方案，并鼓励参与政府间未来契约审议的联合国会员国予以认真考虑并推进落实。在促进世界经济发展上，从都宣言明确指出，单边主义、保护主义、通货膨胀、战争和制裁以及全球供应链中断，影响了世界各地的经济，尤其冲击发展中国家和新兴经济体。各国应承担集体责任，采取合作举措，维护经济金融稳定并促进增长。而且，世界进入全面数字化转型的发展时期，数字技术创新仍是全球战略重点。论坛呼吁各国在相关领域展开合作，并营造开放、公平、公正、非歧视的数字发展环境。从都宣言还呼吁以多边主义应对全球挑战，要坚定维护联合国的权威和地位，维护以联合国宪章宗旨和原则为基础的国际关系基本准则，坚持共商共建共享的全球治理观，全球的事务要由大家商量着来办。
从都宣言作为共识性的文件，实际上是最近几届论坛闭幕式上的立牌菜。不过我留意到，今年的宣言条目比往年更多，一共有11条，内容也更加详实，围绕推动经济复苏、应对全球性挑战、民间友好交往、全球治理变革等等，应时应势提出了许多具体的倡议。比如，今年是有史以来最热的一年，那么应对气候变化就成为了迫在眉睫的议题。从都宣言就呼吁国际社会，特别是发达国家，必须调动尽可能多的资金和技术支持，来帮助发展中国家。宣言长达1500字，我想这也说明，在国际局势经历复杂深刻演变之际，从都国际论坛的与会嘉宾进行了足够深入、充分的交流，才能够达成更为广泛的共识。后疫情时代的国际性论坛，我想这不仅仅是聚得起、谈得来，还要更看重实效，让各方智慧凝聚为共识，转换为行动和成果。而从都国际论坛在这一点上做出了示范。
参与2023从都国际论坛的嘉宾包括30多位前国家元首、政府首脑和国际组织负责人。斯洛文尼亚前总统博鲁特·帕霍尔坦言，在其32年的政治生涯中，参加过许多国际会议，而从都国际论坛独树一帜，在这里总能够听到非常真诚的意见，以及带给世界希望的乐观态度。这一切都得益于中国的智慧。
The wisdom that will secure peace and stability. Nobody says that China should be privileged in international order, but nobody said also that somebody else should be privileged. I think the majority of us here were advocating fair competition for the benefits of all. I mean, a situation where West is shocked by your development. But you should go on, and we should go on. Everybody should go on.
世界基金会执行副主席肖恩·克里瑞认为，他和其他与会嘉宾就多边主义与全球治理变革进行深入探讨，结果是乐观且令人振奋的。
I thought two things had happened. The one is that the sense of urgency has increased, and the sense of collective understanding about what needs to be done has increased as well. I think the fact that Xi Jinping has released the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and then integrated them all into proposals for the reform and development of global governance has been extremely helpful in terms of shaping perspectives. So I think the most important thing that was apparent in all of the discussions here as well is that everyone needs to get their heads around the substance of these proposals and start thinking about what our purposes are, what rules we're going to apply in working together, and what institutional changes we need to make to multilateral institutions to enable a shared future for humankind. And that's an exciting opportunity right now.
而中国所倡导的多边主义理念已引发与会的多国前政要的强烈共鸣。他们表示，不论是欧洲还是非洲，都反对零和游戏思维，天空足够广大，合作共赢未来。而“一带一路”倡议则是蕴藏着中国智慧并普惠参与共建国家的全球公共产品。
Especially the Belt and Road, the big project. You and us, we call win-win situation, win-win projects, win-win looking at the future. So, of course, I think that all countries are benefiting. At the same time, I think that, with a project like that, first goes hardware, first go infrastructure. So that is rolled out very well. Then the second thing that goes, let's call it software. Software is more like trade and state investments.
Just look at, for example, major priorities for the world, like the green transformation. China is leading, but European Union is leading too. We should come together for a greener planet. And also, great power games, China and Europe believe in win-win cooperation and shared future. We need to deliver on that too, together, Europe and China.
国之交在于民相亲，也在本次论坛上得到生动的展现。法国前总统戴高乐的曾孙女 Precepts Strategy 联合创始人兼欧洲分公司总裁娜塔莉·戴高乐是第2次参加从都国际论坛。他对深圳卫视记者表示，民间外交和公共外交相辅相成，保持互补，对增进彼此了解大有帮助。他的曾祖父曾推动了中法两国建交，此刻历史与现实在他自己身上交汇。
It's my third time in China. So I was talking about the special relationship between China and France. Next year will mark the 60th anniversary of our diplomatic relations, bilateral relations, and we are already working together on the climate, on the economy, on the agricultural sector. Yesterday, a big partnership was signed between between Kingle Company and Semaris, which is a big agricultural and logistic company. I think that we are already cooperating, but we could increase it on the green energy, everything related to civil nuclear energy. And I believe as well the academic world, it's talking about people-to-people exchange. It's very important to have a strong academic exchange between students. I myself would love someday to come to teach here, maybe in China, or to welcome Chinese students or Chinese professors in France.
在本次论坛上举行了一场名为粤港澳大湾区菜篮子交易中心的签约仪式。法国赛马里斯股份有限公司与乔欣集团有限公司签署了合作备忘录。赛马里斯目前管理着世界上最大的农产品物流基础设施。虽然今年以来欧洲出现一些鼓吹去风险的杂音，但赛马里斯国际业务总经理坚定表示，法国与中国之间存在特殊连结，法国企业离不开蓬勃的中国市场。
And there is a special relation between French state and Chinese state, especially from the venue of our President Emmanuel Macron in China. So the relation is here. We have to strengthen maybe by the re-implementation of flight connection, of logistic corridors, and different solutions. And I am sure in the future, with development of economic relations, we can reinforce political and strategical relations between France and China.